time to get your fix.
Come on down, get your horrible gaming review. 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 Wow.
Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming, and you have decided, for whatever reason, to tune into another horrible game review. So, before we get into it, a few disclaimers. Number one, the word horrible in the title of this video does not necessarily refer to the game or content that I am reviewing, but instead the review itself. I do snap judgment reviews here, meaning I get anywhere from 5 to 10 hours, sometimes less, sometimes more, with these games, and I just do snap judgment reviews. So whether or not you're going to like it right off the bat, that's what I'm trying to give you a feel of. Number two, I do not give scored reviews for games. I don't believe in them. I think gaming is one of the most subjective forms of art, and therefore you will get the overview of whatever the thing is that I'm reviewing, the pros and cons in my point of view, as all reviews are, and then I will tell you whether I personally will be sticking with it outside the purposes of this review. So what am I reviewing today? I am reviewing the DLC, with the fourth DLC for Borderlands, and that would be Psycho Krieg and the fantastic FlusterCluck. Okay, so this is the fourth DLC for Borderlands 3. What is this? Well, it is, keeping in tone with the last two games, a kind of weird existential journey. Basically, when you start this, Tannis kind of goes over that she's trying to find a way to cure the psycho disease that inflicts so many in Borderlands, and that to do so they have decided to find a way to enter Krieg's brain, you specifically, so that you can find something called Valhalla, which apparently is something that exists in all psychos' brains, and whatever it is somehow causing the psycho disease. In any case, your mission is to go inside of Krieg's head, and that's a pretty messed up place if you remember who Krieg is from Borderlands 2. There's really not that much more to this story. You go inside, you're immediately greeted with a whole list of insanity. You then come up against sane Krieg and insane Krieg, blue and red versions of Krieg. Of course, sane Krieg is the voice that you heard from the old Krieg trailer back in the day. The sane one that wishes Krieg would say normal things, and then of course insane one is the guy talking about meat bicycles and throttling toasters and all sorts of weird stuff like that. The sane Krieg is the only one that can understand the insane Krieg, and basically he wants out of the head. So he agrees to help you get inside of Valhalla to get out. Basically get put into a robot body or something. And Psycho Krieg wants him out too so that he can be completely psycho. So what you then have to do is kind of travel through the different memories that Krieg has had to find these specific items that will allow him to build this statue that gets him into Valhalla, or behind a door that will lead to Valhalla, whatever. Okay. So, along the way, you will basically learn everything there is to know about Krieg. You'll go into his backstory, how he was created. You'll get to find out how he actually feels about the other Vault Hunters, because you never really get any information from him in any of the subject material that he's in, because he's a psychopath. He just screams random stuff and cuts down bad guys. In addition to that, you will do a multitude of side quests, which mostly involve helping Krieg come to terms with some part of himself, or helping him fix some sort of weird, deep-seated mental damage to his head. Until eventually, well, I don't want to give spoilers, but yeah. One thing you guys should know before we go into the pros and cons, I've only actually gotten about 2.5 hours of play with this. From what I understand, it only takes roughly 3 to 4 to get through the whole thing, so I'm pretty close. But I'm going to just go ahead and do the review anyway. But keep in mind, I have not played the whole DLC, and I don't usually play all the whole games that I get, but the last couple of DLCs I had gotten all the way through before I had to do the review. So let's touch on the pros. The pros and cons are going to be kind of hard to do in this game because they're very, very closely tied together. It's kind of like two sides of the same coin. But I'm going to try and do it. Your first pro is the individual side quest writing and the dialogue writing for Sane Krieg. Really good in this game. In this DLC, I mean. I am immediately brought into a side quest in which you find Sane Krieg just over and over again blowing himself up and telling himself he deserves this. The side quest basically materializes into you staying with him and helping him understand he's not just a detriment to the world around him. And that's just, to me, it actually hit my heart, and there's not a, especially with the Bounty of Blood, there wasn't a lot of emotional content that affected me that much, whereas this one really did. And it might just be because I am a, on the inside, I am a greatly damaged individual who has kind of some of this internal turmoil, but it definitely spoke to me on that level that, like, wow, they get, I don't want to say they get mental disease, but they definitely handled some of this stuff in a way that I enjoyed. It's hard not to compare this DLC to Claptrap's journey from the pre-sequel or Tiny Tina's Dungeons and Dragons, Bunkers and Badasses game, because this also is one of those existential, them dealing with something sort of thing. And on that level, I kind of felt like the writing in the actual context of the game was better. Like, just the dialogue and how you have to kind of try and take this very, very broken man and make him whole. It would have been very easy for them to write a DLC where he just says funny stuff the whole time. But they actually gave character to a character that has never really had a character. And that I enjoyed. There's another just standard pro that I want to throw out here, that this still feels like a good game. It's still a fun game. It's still fun to shoot everything. The mobs still feel good. It's never unsatisfying to play this, and that's nice. But unfortunately, it's very status quo-y. We're going to get to why, I think, and we're going to get to more of that in the cons. And I want to say, as I go into the cons, this is going to end up being kind of a negative review. And I feel like I've been doing a lot of negative reviews lately. I'm not super happy about that. I hate doing negative reviews. Anybody who's watched my reviews long enough knows I don't like doing it, but I have to call it like I see it, and I have to do all the Borderlands stuff because you guys give the most views to that. So, my first pro is the overall writing, not the interior dialogue or side quest beat for beat writing, but the storyline writing is rough. Meaning, it would have been so easy to explain something of how you get into Krieg's mind, but Krieg isn't anywhere on the ship. You just start into this mission. Tannis goes on this rant that she wants to figure out what makes psychos tick. Then she instructs you to fly to a psychically, I can't even remember how she described it, but a psychically weak area of space. You literally fly to a place called Krieg's Mind. There's this pink mass floating in space with a giant mask and buzz axe floating around it. Like, why is that like that? Can't you explain that there's some sort of anomaly that with a certain piece of alien technology will allow you to pass through the anomaly into Krieg's brain? Like, something. Like, give me something. And this is the big reason that I didn't like the other two existential things, is the explanation for, like, it's too much of a leap. I can't suspend a disbelief that far. And it just, I don't know. That might just be me. Again, it might just be me, but, like, I really wish they would explain that more. And it's not like I'm against them going into a head. They just don't ever really get into how that works or why that works. The why, again, is the whole figuring out how psychos work thing. Like, you're kind of doing this to cure psychos, and I don't feel like anything gets accomplished. And that's something that bothered me. Now, for the purposes of this review, because there was so much possible content that I might be missing if I didn't, I ended up going through and watching a bunch of walkthroughs and storyline playthrough to kind of get an idea of how this game ended. I spoiled it for myself so that I could give a proper like all the way through review. And they never really solve the Psycho thing. They never really get any further in that. There's no, like, it leaves you feeling empty at the end. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great Krieg character development, and I love how they develop that character and his resolution. But as far as your resolution and the overall story resolution, it makes you feeling like you kind of wasted the last 3 hours of your life. Keeping that thought going, it goes right into my next con, which I kind of feel like this is a little bit of a waste, because everything in this game technically is a reused asset, and that kind of irritates me. So I was a little bit negative on Bounty of Blood. I didn't like the overall writing of that one, and I didn't like the payoff at the end because there wasn't really any payoff. However, they still had this whole new awesome world to explore with completely new bad guy types, completely new monster types. There's none of that there. Everything is recycled, and I mean everything. All the bosses you fight are character models from previous games. The first couple of bosses you come up against are evil versions of the original Vault Hunters. Like that kind of stuff. Like everything you see in this DLC is a reused asset from the original game. That makes it really felt like I was really getting sick of it by the end. It kind of felt like they had taken stuff that they had already done, repackaged it, and sold it to me for another $20. And that's not fair. I don't think that's right. Even though there is a new story to it, I didn't like that. Left a bad taste in my mouth. That doesn't mean that this DLC is without originality. The local Mobius fight is already being hailed on the internet as one of the coolest out there, and I am not inclined to disagree. However, the only new enemy type are psychos riding giant rockets. That's it. Everything else is something you have seen before. All of the scenery is something you've seen before, distorted by weird twisty meat or whatever. Like, everything in this game is something you've seen before, and that irritated me. Alright, so that brings me to whether or not I'm going to stick with it. And I gotta be honest, guys, I'm having a hard time getting through this one. Or even going back to it. There's nothing in it that I haven't seen before. There's nothing in it that's new. And while I like Krieg's resolution and the story they tell about Krieg, I feel like on a whole they didn't give me enough reason to go in or enough reason to feel like I accomplished anything by the end. The other thing is, and this is a Borderlands thing, not necessarily a DLC thing for this, but again, they have raised the level cap, which I'm really sick of them doing. Because every time they do that, they make everything you have useless. And I am sick of their reasoning for their answer to we don't have anything to do being making everything we've already done feel like a waste. Grinding out the same things we've done over and over again to get the same guns we've gotten already, but just at a higher level so that it matches us. It's really frustrating. Find the cap that you want to put the game at, put the game at that, and then leave the post-content stuff alone. And add stuff to the game, but leave that, like, that's the level, that's what it's at, so that people can grind out to where they need to be and they can play with the builds that they want to play with. So as far as whether or not I'm even going to finish this, I don't know. It's on my Xbox, and it takes an incredibly long load-in time still of Dancing Claptrap, and I just don't know if I'm willing to put up with that when I have a shiny new PC in my basement waiting for me to play nice games in crack speed that I'm not forcing myself through out of some weird loyalty. So this has been another negative review. I really hope I get to review something positive next week. I'm sorry if this pisses off a lot of people. We have a lot of Borderlands people who join this channel, and the last thing I want to do is alienate you guys, but really I have to call it like I see it, and I think this is the weakest DLC they've put out by far. But hey, I could be wrong. You know, yell at me in the comments below. Of course, you can contact us on Facebook at OldManGamingDH, on Twitter at OldManGaming9. You can join our Discord. The link is in the description below. You can also tell me how stupid I am there. And then, you know, as long as you guys keep watching and listening, I'll keep making it. Please turn the like on, the subscribe on if you do enjoy this. And tell your friends. We'd love to get some more subscribers. We'll see you guys next week.